Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be discussing the Northern Expeditions, the Canadian difficulty more specifically, and how I feel, well, basically overall about the event, difficulty, node combinations, and everything else around it. So, well, first and foremost, I think for the level of difficulty, it's alright. It's not hard, especially for like more experienced Cavalier players. And I think it's relatively doable, even like maxed out 4 stars if you really try to push it and do it well, which is what I'm also going to try and upload on the weekend, where I'm going to take a team of maxed out 4 stars and kind of like deal with some of the more troublesome paths and matchups that I have seen people ask questions about and complain, just to kind of actually check whether it's horrible or not. But overall, I think the power index level, well, kind of like health and attack wise, the values are definitely acceptable. I don't think they're over or undertuned. I think in this quest in particular, Breakthrough actually made huge difference to make the quest feel a lot more fun, a lot more interesting, because no matter who you bring in, you're not going to deal a whole lot of damage initially, but eventually every single champion can hit quite hard, and I think Breakthrough is quite beautiful node in general, and I would love to see more versions of Breakthrough. Maybe something that works similarly with damage or time effects, or I don't know, critical hits, where initially you have 0 crit damage rating, and every time you crit you get X amount of crit rating, and so eventually any champion has like huge crits or something like that. So I think the idea of kind of like significantly reducing your damage and then kind of like potentially increasing it as the fight goes along, it's quite cool for a node, and I definitely would love to see many more variations of it. I think it's interesting, and I think it also enables a use of a lot of weaker champions, because eventually they all hit hard. Even Juggernaut can drop some massive damage. So yeah, and when it comes to node combinations, and this is the biggest thing, the biggest kind of like praise here that I can give, because obviously I'm going to talk about the negatives as well, but the biggest kind of like praise that I generally, when I played this content, especially the last week's quest, on a stream yesterday, I was having fun. And there aren't that many kind of casual piece of content like Kabam the Raps where I genuinely absolutely enjoy them. Obviously variants have been fun. Act 6 has not been fun at large. Maybe a couple of fights. Grandmaster was fun. Thanos is fine, but let's say your uncollected monthly quests are quite tedious and not too much. Typical monthly side event quests are not really all that engaging, but this piece of content actually kind of entertained me. And the reason it did entertain me, because all of these nodes were kind of complementary, well placed together, and made the experience different but interesting. You needed to problem solve, so you can take a look at Vision fight, for instance. So buffed up, so you have to have 3 buffs in order to deal damage, right? So all in all, that node is alright. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that node. It's not one of my favorites, definitely, but there are a lot of champions who can gain buffs, and so you need to troubleshoot a bit. You need to find champions who have 3 buffs, but the second node, Rich Get Richer, reward you for it. So when you do bring a champion with a lot of buffs, I don't know, Venom, then Venom's going to be gaining a whole ton of extra power, because you are facing off opponents like Vision, who typically have, well, who have no buffs, or if you're doing your job right, you're going to have more buffs at all times, so you're going to gain a lot of extra power every second, which just makes the whole gameplay kind of like process more quick, more fun, more interesting. You can spam more special attacks. So this is an absolutely beautiful node combination, and these are the type of node combinations that we all would love to see in Act 7. Obviously we expect maybe increased difficulty level, maybe like the 3rd node or something, but these 2 nodes complement each other absolutely beautifully, and they kind of enhance the effect of one node to another, where they make the buffs the requirement, but they also reward you for having the said buffs. Similarly here, we have Power Shield and Power Reserve. Everybody loves Power Shield, but in case you might not have overly suitable champions for Power Shield, here you have access to more special attacks. So how cool is that? You get these huge 400% special attacks, And you have this power reserve who is cheesable node all in all, because you can like stun loop opponents and all that stuff. But it also enables any single champion access to more special attacks. Therefore, power shield is made more lively kind of node. You not necessarily have to build that along to like kind of each special attack. You're going to be able to shoot them much more frequently, and that's going to result in more interesting time in the quest. So again, two node combinations that complement each other absolutely wonderfully. Now here, resistor and personal space is kind of like, yeah, resistor is typically enough. If there's a resistor and that's it, that's fun over. But again, personal space is kind of like a decent addition, so opponent's gonna have a whole ton of buffs. So any champion that abuses these buffs, like I don't know, Longshot, who I personally used on Morningstar or Ronan or whoever, is gonna have an absolute field day here, and you're gonna have again like kind of cheesable lane and fun time overall. And the last lane here is Distract and Buffet, which also kind of like goes very well together in my opinion, because well, Buffet basically enables opponents to heal, right? But Distract, you can't deal any damage to opponents unless you place 3 or more debuffs on them. And here the kind of like hidden beauty that I kind of felt was, if I'm gonna bring in a champion that places a lot of debuffs, then in combination with Despair Mastery, they're not gonna heal much anyways, even if I trigger the Buffet, because the Despair Mastery will shut down all of the healing anyway, so I can kind of ignore Buffet node, and they're kind of telling me to do that, they're forcing me to do that via a Distract node where I can't deal no damage. They have no debuffs on. If I have the said minimum 3 debuffs with maxed out Despair, that's 45% healing reduction in itself, and Buffet node is much less punishing. And not to mention that you can obviously bring in Void and or Captain America Infinity or whoever, and it's gonna have like a huge heal reverse effects here. And both of those champions are typically your go-to heal reverse champions, and both of them function here perfectly. Additionally, they also did this class-based, and they did it wonderfully, playing on each class strengths. For instance, majority of the science class actually does in fact place a lot of debuffs on opponent, therefore they typically don't have trouble with Distract. And if you bring in the science champions, you're gonna have class advantage for every single fight, which is again kind of like a positive, nice experience. Your champions are hitting harder against where you're gonna be facing opponents with a whole ton of buffs. You are likely going to be bringing in Mystic champions anyways, because those champions are who typically kind of like benefit from it, via Mystic Dispersion or any other abilities. And you're facing Cosmic champions, so that's class advantage again. And you need a lot of buffs. Which class typically has most champions who have a lot of buffs? It's Cosmic, so you're going up against tech champions. And so I think it's very cleverly designed, and I absolutely loved it. I didn't notice it as much in previous weeks, even though I was perfectly kind of candid and happy with the previous week lanes as well. But especially the design of this last quest, in my opinion, is quite beautiful and quite elegant, where everything kind of flows together in order to create a positive experience. So the champions that you are quote-unquote guided to bring in typically will have the class advantage, and they will all have some sort of beneficial effects if you follow the restrictions that are required. So there's a little bit of puzzle solving, but it rewards you very greatly for sorting out those requirements. And that is what I think Cavalier difficulty side events should be. They should be proposing a problem and then rewarding you for solving it well. And since these side events are not meant to be kind of like absolutely crazy difficult, which this wasn't, this really was not a hard piece of content or quest, honestly. I do know, and I don't mean bad or ill if somebody struggled, and that's fine, because we all have different progression levels, we have all different experience levels and whatsoever. I'm talking about me personally. I didn't find this difficult one bit, but I had fun. I was bringing in a ton of different champions. I was testing, I was goofing off, I was laughing when I was streaming it, and it was a great time. And I do understand that, yes, there will be summoners who find this extremely difficult, like it is with everything, and you can never please everyone. There are summoners who complain about every single uncollected boss that comes released. So, again, for people who complain about this piece of content, saying it's poorly designed and that it's too difficult or whatever, keep in mind, this is meant to be Cavalier difficulty, and I can promise you, this is great design. If you still insist on disagreeing with me, you can perhaps, I don't know, go sit on a bench and rethink your life, how you are not necessarily entitled to be able to explore this, because this is meant to be the next level of progression. And it's perfect. It's perfect for teaching people how to problem solve against difficult nodes, and then at the same time making it more fun than it typically is. It's much more fun than Act 6 ever was in reality, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I wanted to compliment whoever made the quest, whoever took the champion choices, node combinations, so on and so forth. Wonderful. When it goes to the length, I think it was about all right. I think 12 path maybe a bit too much, 10 path maybe a bit better, but hey, again, you can't please everybody. This is definitely much better than Mole Man Expeditions in terms of the length. And now that I have absolutely suckled up on Kabam's titties, we have to talk about a couple of the things that I definitely didn't enjoy. First and foremost, obviously, the Sasquatch ambush. I personally feel like I got really good at fighting Sasquatch because of them, but it was tedious. That was like the number one thing that kind of like felt repetitive and boring, because that Sasquatch never had any extra nodes. If anything, I would have accepted the Sasquatch ambush if it also had the nodes on which lane it kind of like ambushes me. Then it would have been more fun, because then at least every fight would have been a little bit different. But now, since there were no nodes, every fight was exactly the same, and I just gonna leave it at the fact that I fought Sasquatch far too much. Like, it's too much. There's no need for that. just feels so annoying. So I would rather them add in Sasquatch as a champion that you go to at like one of the tiles in each section. So we have like 4 sections here, 4 different sets of node combinations. So I'd put maybe Sasquatch somewhere here next to the Winter Soldier, maybe I'd put Sasquatch there next to Punisher 2099, so on and so forth. So we can actually meet him on the map, and we would meet him guaranteed 4 times, no more, no less, and it wouldn't be an ambush, because yeah, it just was too random and far too much, and kind of ruined the taste of the quest. For sure. Now, the second bit is rewards. And the rewards, I'll be honest, I don't think are up there. Now, the saving grace for this event quest for me was the fact that it's actually interesting. But when it comes to the other rewards, signaling any kind of like significant improvement or progression level, having like 2,500 6-star shards, no, definitely not. I think they should double at least the amount of 6-star shards, and probably double the amount of 5-star shards to kind of like make it more juicy, make it more enticing, because rewards aren't horrible by any means, but at a time when you are asking your players to troubleshoot and problem solve and grind out, and this does take a while, I do feel you should reward, that players should have been rewarded a bit better. Not to mention that obviously them taking away the lowest difficulty and then reducing the level of rewards for each lower difficulty as well, that's just kind of like cheeky, and that kind of like left the whole event with a bit of a bad taste. So when it comes to the event design and fight design and all that, the first part of the video, absolutely love the quest. When it comes to them taking away one difficulty and cutting out a lot of interesting cool stuff from lower tiers, I'm definitely not too happy with it. Also, here's one thing that I do not necessarily know whether Kabam realizes or not, but typically higher tier players use the lower difficulties of these monthly events to get low tier catalysts, because at least I and most of the people that I know typically don't grind these daily event quests for class catalysts or basic catalysts, and maybe some low sig stones, so on and so forth. And it's always kind of like very good time if we manage to pick up a bunch of tier 2 basic or tier 3 basic catalysts and lower difficulty levels of these side event quests, and yeah, basically stuff like that. So this event kind of was relatively dry compared to all of that stuff. So just like maybe a bit more personal critique. But overall, I definitely think that Kabam is pretty much already there. I think the level of opponent PI, attack and health is wonderful. I think that objectively, my experience currently has been skewed a bit by the breakthrough node, because again, any champion could technically do these lanes, because any champion would eventually hit hard enough. So I would love to see next month with the same stats without breakthrough node how long the fights do feel, and then evaluate that. But when it comes to the node design and the idea, what comes to kind of like pairing nodes with specific class champions and then giving kind of like a supportive rewarding node in addition to a requirement node, I think it's a brilliant idea. I think it's beautiful, and I think they should keep that for as long as they can, because it's fun, it's great. Power Shield, for instance, alone is fun, but when you get to throw more special attacks on Power Shield, it's wonderful time. You want to play that piece of content. Like yesterday's stream, I wanted to only have like hour and a half long stream. I nearly ended up streaming for like 2.5 hours because I just didn't want to stop doing this quest, because I was genuinely having a lot of fun. And that's about as big of a compliment I can give Kabam on a casual side quest. But yeah, that will do for today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I definitely know I enjoyed this month's side event quest. Let me know what you guys think. Did you like the difficulty? Did you like the nodes? Did you like the event quest? And whether you agree with me, drop a comment, let me know. We can discuss. If you didn't like it, tell me why you didn't like it. I told what I didn't like about it, the ambushes and the rewards largely. But yeah, anyways, that is it. Hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit all of the buttons, and I'm gonna catch you guys soon. See ya!